So if some kid's punching you and doing that stuff, you just gotta do something.
Like we got to do something. It's one thing when you're in the sixth grade. And
Yeah.
You punch them out.
I know.
So when you got a nuclear weapon sitting over there.
Well, I
Like
think,
said, you
I
never hear
think
anybody
yeah,
saying
That's
it,
crazy. I thought he was gonna.
but you're not really hearing anybody say anything over there. It's just
no, I figured that's what he did. He went there to quote unquote destabilize the region, to give a lot of people, I'll say, false hope. So all the rebels are out now rebelling, and he's like, oh, we're on their side.
Sick of them.
They have
The other thing
Still
he
stand
did
next to him.
is he kind of glued NATO back together. So
keep going in.
I hope
Well, yeah, with you.
we'll see.
Well, I went out there. I heard
It's troublesome.
I went out there. It was 10:02.
Is it that time?
It is no, right? It's close.
My,
2 minutes.
my watch and that thing on the wall are not together.
When I got to the door,
5:27 on this.
Yep.
I think he got like one. That's pretty good. Yeah. And they treat everybody the same. That's the difference. Respect. Respect.
Yeah.
Those guys.
It's a good little story.
Now I've got one right down the street, Cedar Park. It's the same shit. That's what I found. Found another bottle of plant.
What?
Bottle of plant. Cedar Park. Plays. They got handle and buffalo trays, which is hard to find now.
I got 2 buffalo trays. I got 1 eagle ring. And I got 6 blankets.
I think I'll read all 3 of them. Well, I gave one away. I gave one to Michael.
I'll read those 3 items and just say.
I think I can get that on by 5, so 3, 4. But it happened in there. And I was like, can you get buffalo trays? I said, you want buffalo trays? Or a handle? I was like, yeah. Goes to the back. It's like, this shouldn't be hard to find. I understand bland. She's like, what do you want? Do you have a bottle?
Well, they just hold it.
Last bottle.
They just hold it back.
They just put it in the back and you asked.
Yeah.
Maybe gone.
It's in a
today,
lot.
but
Yeah, it's a lot. So when we flew to Jamaica,
Oh, you bought some there.
that's how I got it. So they had all these bottles of glass, like a whole shelf full. You can't. I like how some places up here you're on wait list for 2 keys. You know,
If they have it.
yeah, if they have it. It's
But Lakeside, you just gotta.
I do not. I do
You gotta
not.
persist.
That's a flashback.
But who has that?
Dan, how are you?
so I've had 1 bottle in my cabinet for 2 years.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Belton City Council meeting for 2/22/22. Glad to have everybody here today. Notice that City Manager Sam Wisty is on well-deserved vacation, so we've got Assistant City Manager Police Chief Gene Ellis sitting in for him, and Council Member Pearson's wife just had surgery, so he is out tonight. Tonight, the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag will be led by Council Member John Holmes Sr. Pledge to the Texas flag will be led by Retail Coordinator Judy Garrett, and Dan Kirkley will be giving us the invocation.
Please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight to do business for and be the servants of our community. I would ask, Father, that you would give us wisdom and kindness as we negotiate, and that, Father, we would do all in our power, all in our strength to honor you in everything we say and do. In Jesus' name, amen.
this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is public comments. I don't think we have any tonight. Items 3 through 5 are on the consent agenda. Items under this section are considered to be routine by the council and may be enacted by one motion. If discussion is desired by council, any item may be removed from the consent agenda prior to voting. Item 3, to consider minutes of the February 8th, 2022 council meeting. Item 4, to receive a report on the annual review of the city's ethics ordinance number 201803 by the Ethics Commission. And item 5, to consider a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the American Association of Retired Persons Community Challenge. Mr. Kirkley is asked to pull item 5.
I move we approve items 3 and 4 as presented. Or consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And item 5, as I said, consider a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the American Association of Retired Persons. And as Joelle's going to come up and give us a little information about that.
And what I would like to just mention is I'm not opposed to this in any form or fashion. And I'm so excited about it because at a Care Network meeting one first Thursday morning, Joelle explained that to us at Care Network and how she had done that in a former responsibility. And I think it's one of the neatest things in the world that can draw us as a community even more together than we are already. And combined with Are You Okay and several other things, I think this is a home run. And I just wanted us to rejoice a little bit in the description of it.
Okay, I wasn't planning on talking today, so please forgive me. But the community challenge that the AARP has right now has available funding that can for innovative community projects. Well, one of the things Belton has, it's growing. And with that growth also comes, more needs sometimes. And so this is the perfect opportunity to actually bring, to ask for and to develop with the small tool trailer and having all the equipment and everything within that tool trailer so that neighbors can be helping neighbors, helping our seniors and helping our disabled. I pulled from code enforcement all the different high grass and weeds, and we been breaking all that information down. And we have a lot of seniors that are getting those letters and so forth. Well, what better way to end up helping individuals that are having difficulty with high grass and weeds or whatever, if we can end up having our community to have the tools available to be able to go out and mow that grass. In my previous position, the program that I developed was actually a concept to where we had our different church communities, we had volunteers. I had Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts who committed from April through October 2 times a month to the individuals that could not mow their grass and keep their yard maintained. And that's kind of the concept that I kind of want to do now again, to be able to, if we're able to get this grant funding, is to be able to instrument this type of programming so that we can end up helping our neighbors. This can also end up helping to where somebody wants to do a community project within their neighborhood with cleanups and so forth. So that's pretty much what the Community Challenge Grant's about. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to be able to put our foot forward and to see if we can obtain some of those monies. There's no match to it. And if we are able to get the Community Challenge, it'll be a great way to emphasize our community and our community partners within the area.
I don't remember the amount.
We can end up doing, well, it's up to $15,000, but average is $1,105.
Wow, 11,500.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Well, one of the things that I think is really significant about this initiative is that obviously we are all aware that within the last couple of years, we have seen a lot of changes in how we live our lives. And one of the things that I think is significant is the rise in a thing called social isolation. and the suffering that occurs as a result of that. And I think Are You Okay is doing a tremendous job in helping with that. But I think this also will give us lots and lots of opportunities to touch people's lives in a really positive way by volunteers and church groups and that sort of thing. That'll just be very, very successful. And I appreciate your efforts. And with that, I'd like to make a motion that we pass item number 5 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item number 5. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for coming up and giving us a little update on what all that entails. Appreciate it. Item number 6 is to hold a public hearing and consider a zoning change from agricultural to commercial C2 district on approximately 3.922 acres located at 1803 South Connell Street, generally located west of Interstate 35, south of Interstate 14, and west of South Connell Street. Tina Moore. Good
Thank
evening.
you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I get started, I just want to point out the applicant, Mr. Eddie Wilson, is here. At the end of the presentation, should you have any questions I'm unable to answer, Mr. Wilson is here and can answer those questions. As stated, here is the location of the property. It is south of US 90, I-14, and it is west of I-35. Here is Connell Street, and it is on the west side of Connell Street. Here's a zoomed in look at the property. As you can see, there is a manufactured home on the property. The applicant plans to relocate that home prior to developing the site. Here is a zoning overlook of the area. This property is zoned agricultural. Next to it is Southwood Hills Phase 3 duplex apartment complexes. To the north of that is zone planned development 2-family. That's Southwood Hills duplex apartments Phase 1. And across the street is PD multifamily. That is the location for Connell townhouses and also for future multifamily development. The property owner submitted this application because he would like to be able to develop leasable warehouse units for local contractors, retail space, and light manufacturer. The proposed zoning would allow for that commercial use. That would allow for anything that's permitted in the commercial 2 district. With that, that includes anything that's allowed in most of all the other commercial zoning, retail, commercial 1, auto sales, repairs, commercial amusement, carpentry, cabinet, painting, plumbing, welding, tinsmith, all of those uses are permitted in this area. The minimum requirement, this lot exceeds that. The minimum requirements includes a 5,000 square foot lot, a width of 50 and a depth of 100. This lot is 3.9 acres and definitely meets all of the minimum requirements. All structures will be reviewed for applicable setbacks and other zoning requirements. The future land use map identifies this general area for residential use. As you can see, it is in close proximity to the Interstate 14 and 35 commercial corridors, and those are the red areas outlined. Across the street is our commercial. This side, unfortunately, is on the residential side. Notices were sent out to property owners within 200 feet of this property. There were one letter of support, I apologize, and that was actually from the applicant. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item at their meeting last week on February 15th, and they unanimously recommended approval of the proposed zoning change. With that, that would restrict the use of the property to all the uses allowed in commercial 2. Development of each site shall comply with the type 9 design standards. A subdivision plat is required for this subdivision. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Okay. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak for or against this? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for council discussion.
I'm really excited to see the amount of development that we're seeing in South Belton and in this area in particular, and looking forward to a lot of the infrastructure. That being said, my gut tells me that in 5 years that this commercial 2 zoning will be totally surrounded by residential and will look like spot zoning, mainly because of what's going on. So if they were to come in 5 years to ask for the same thing, would we give the same answer? And my feeling would be is in 5 years after we have apartments and everything, and right now those folks are not the ones that would be writing the for or against the zoning because they're not there yet. But we can see what's going. So anyway, I've just got a little fear, trepidation about putting C2 zoning in the interior of a residential development. No problem with the exterior, right? Just 1 block away, right? Just it doesn't take very far. But that's my 2 cents.
I should probably say that there are existing types of use next door to it. Belton Granite is right adjacent to this property. And I expect that to be rezoned because they're looking at doing an addition. I'll just show you that the applicant owns that property too, but it is just.
Yeah, it was really
south of
small
that.
though. I mean, it's just, I'm just reminded of Houston.
I was just thinking it's a similar use.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the other map that has the zonings around it? Well, that one's a good one
This
too.
one,
Just
or you?
Yeah,
that one's okay. It's not the future land use, is what I was talking about. But so what about is there any plans for any of those streets to come on through? Or is it just going to be that one like that? What is that, Shirley? I can't read.
Actually,
Freeway.
Layla Lane is planned to come on through to connect to the interstate.
I think he's referring to
The smaller street.
Treeway.
Treyway, actually, no,
Treyway,
that
or
will not.
Treyway.
Well, it will come through to serve the apartment complex and connect to Connell.
So to David's point, what he's just saying is, I mean, you have multifamily all
100%.
around it, 100% around it. If it was across the street where that PDMF is right now, that would even make more sense. And I do know that, the Belton Granite's right there, but this is adding, you can't change what's there, but you don't have to add to it, create a bigger area that's on an island. So yeah, I mean, I think we really have to think about that because all this housing that's going around it, it's definitely not gonna fit with that. And some of these others up further north, are liable to fizzle out, and eventually maybe even the Belton Granite would relocate and move, and then that opens up to more residential. So I don't know. I mean, it's a real concern, and these are why we have these conversations when we talk about zoning, because this is one you can look at it one of 2 ways. You're adding to what's already there and just making it a little bit bigger. But if you're kind of hoping that maybe what's there will eventually not be there, then you're just kind of making that problem bigger, or potential problem bigger.
It seems to me that with the quality of what I've seen him looking to create, and particularly as a screen to the granite kinds of things and the things that are going on here, and in regard to what P and Z recommended, it looks to me like I think it's a marvelous addition to our community. I think it's a win-win, and I think the property's value is a huge win for Belton.
Do we have I just don't know. Do we have design standards for those metal buildings? Do we require the bottom row brick like the rendering they have, or an awning to the entrance, or some of those things?
Unfortunately, most of that design review was taken away by the state. We can no longer require that type of facade. We do have requirements for opening and cover screening, covered awning entrance areas though.
But I was really impressed by the pictures that you had out there. Then just happened to drive through Gerald over the weekend, and off to the side, there's some small businesses with metal buildings, but they don't look near as attractive as the rendering that you have. And so I think, we've seen some neighborhood gyms, some other uses for these type buildings. And I think the owner has the ability to apply and ask for the rezoning. And if he doesn't want to do housing, I think the little neighborhood services would go well in that area.
Any other comments or discussion?
That's a detention pond at the end of the row of houses, correct? And Leyland
Are
Lane?
you,
Is that a detention pond?
yes,
Okay.
I apologize. Oh,
So
yes,
there's
there's a
one house,
detention here and
two
there's
houses that
gonna
would
be one here.
abut directly currently at this point.
Correct.
Do we have any, commercial is 24/7. They can use any time of day, any time of night. And then that'd be my concern would be noise, for existing
There
houses.
is a noise ordinance. There is a minimum standard after, I want to say 9 o'clock at night.
For
There
even
are certain
commercial?
times for even commercial.
Okay.
No, it's just, like I said, fear and trepidation is different than opposition, right? So there's just this gut feel that I try to play the future self and go, was that, and anyway, so, and it's a tough one because if it's more of a neighborhood services where, I don't know, an accountant comes in and I don't know, a plumbing supply company comes in and they park a few trucks out there and it's something that's kind of light, then it's congruent. But if it's not, then it's not congruent. And so and the quality, I think quality of building is really will, I think, dictate that. And when you're zoning, there's no quality building unless we did a planned development, I guess. And I would feel more planned development for neighborhood services with C2, whatever, that kind of stuff, than just blanket C2. I'm not sure what commercial entertainment is, but I guess commercial entertainment could happen.
I'm not sure you want to go there.
Well, and also go back to the list of what is allowed.
I apologize. Amusement.
Oh, a commercial amusement. That's it.
Amusement
Commercial
park.
amusement.
Amusement
Sounds even
park.
worse.
Because also in zoning decisions, you have to not look at necessarily just what this applicant is wanting to put there, but everything that can be allowed there going forward, because he may start with one thing and it may evolve into something else that's allowed under this zoning. So I think that's real important to look at everything that's allowed in this zoning, because we're changing the zoning. We're not saying that's all that can be there. And that's a lot of stuff there that you may or may not want right next to housing. Storage is not a big deal, just straight up storage. But when you look at some of the other things, the sales and the automotive repair, commercial amusement, whatever that is, that's a little bit different.
Well, to echo what John said, it looks to be a quality project. Mr. Wilson, since you're here, would you like to speak to that briefly, just as what you have in mind? It might help the council. If you would just state your name and address for the record.
My name's Eddie Wilson. I live in Woodway, 1612 Oak Hollow, Woodway, Texas. I don't know whether you have the pictures.
Yes,
Did
sir.
you say you
Yes,
had
sir.
the pictures? That's the type of building I want to build with the rock and concrete, sufficient space for concrete, some green areas, trees. I want it to look nice. And I think Belton really needs that sort of thing. I've had people even talk with me about finding a place to put a little business of some sort. And I've heard from other people, real estate agents and stuff, where they're getting calls and instead, like you mentioned, Gerald, I know the guy that built those and it's his plan that I will be using, but it'll be a better setting, but it'll be similar to that, it'll be, and there's people from the Belton area going to Gerald, to some of the people that lease those things are looking for places, have gone from here to there, looking for that kind of property. There should be sufficient space to space out the buildings, and when we get the final engineer's plat of it all, then you'll be able to see the whole picture of it with a entrance and the buildings side by side, and there's also just a lot of different types of businesses that might be in there. And we want them to be good businesses. It is not going to be detrimental to the whole project. The Belton Granite is to the south of it. On the most of the space on the north is a retention pond. There is some across the street and down a little bit that's commercial one, I think. And there's several commercial businesses up and down Connell Street, which hopefully someday will be improved, widened and stuff from the Bell County to 14, Bell County Expo to Interstate 14. Is there any questions that along those lines that?
No, I agree. I think that kind of development is something that's needed. There have been a couple of buildings that were built in our business park that are kind of spec buildings like this, and they fill up. And so, and that's the concern. Just the general concern is there's no development standards. All we're doing is zoning, and all I do is go to what's the worst thing that can go there. And if it's not explicitly stated, then the worst thing may go there. And so that's what I look at. I don't look at the intention, because honestly, I've heard a lot of people come in and have a zoning with an intention, and you many times doesn't end up exactly. So that's. But no, I again, generally, what you're scoping out is exactly what our community needs. But I'm just questioning the proximity to single family.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, I think in all of this is I look at the retention pond as I'm looking down on it on the north, and granted on the south, empty property. And being able to put something in it that is a blessing to the community. I guess I look at the potential, and I think it's very positive. So I'm totally in favor of it.
Is that a motion?
Is that a motion?
In fact, why don't I make a motion that we approve the request as presented?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the request, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
The motion passes 3-2. Four to two. 4-2.
Yeah.
4.
Nay, 4 nay.
4-2.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you. Item number 7, to hold a public hearing and consider rezoning change from agricultural to single-family 1 residential district on approximately 4.09 acres located at 6586 Toll Bridge Road, generally located east of Interstate 35, north of Elmer King Road, and west of Toll Bridge Road. Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The applicant, John Messer, is here, always here for this application. As stated, this is I-35, and this property, it is east of I-35. Here's Toll Bridge Road. It is just north of that. Here's Elmer King, north of that, west of Toll Bridge. Here's a zoomed in look at the property. As you can see, there are 2 sustained structures on this property. This property and surrounding zoning, surrounding area are zone agricultural. Across the street are some commercial highway properties. This property and the adjacent properties were annexed into the city limits in 2000 and assigned the agricultural zoning district at that time. The applicant recently submitted in a subdivision plat to subdivide this 4-acre property into 3 lots. The plat is currently under review and may be brought back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council should the applicant request for a variance from the subdivision ordinance. Reason for that, there are no city water, wastewater services at this location. The existing homes are served by 1 septic. A new septic is proposed for the new home, which will require approval from the Bell County Health Department. Existing water well will provide domestic water service for the proposed future home. The applicant would be responsible for addressing fire protection, as there are no fire hydrants or adequate water pressure in this area for firefighting purposes. This may be done by installing a fire suppression system in the proposing home. Again, the plat is under review and all of that will be addressed with that review process. The proposed zoning change would allow for detached homes, which is what the applicant is proposing. The proposed lot exceeds the minimum requirements for the single family 1 district, which requires 10,000 square feet. These lots range from 0.98 to 1.91 acres. Exceed that requirement. Here is the proposed plat. Here is Toll Bridge, and the applicant is requesting, that's the dividing line. That's lot number 1, 2, and 3. So 3 different lots. The future land use map identified this as a transitional area for lifestyle center, which is retail, restaurant, dense residential neighborhood services. However, this is an existing use that's already there, and adjacent area also have that existing use. This area is adjacent to low density residential. Notices were provided to property owners within 200 feet of this property, and no letters of support or opposition were received. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item at their meeting on February 15th and recommended approval of this item. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, at this time, we'll open the public hearing, and does anyone wish to speak for or against this zoning change? If not, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for council discussion. Any questions or concerns?
Do we need to seek legal advice on this one?
Do you know a good lawyer? Can we find a good lawyer?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'd make a motion that we approve the zoning change from Ag A to single family SF1 residential district on approximately 4.09 acres located on Toll Bridge Road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 8, to hold a public hearing and consider a zoning change from agricultural to planned development, single family 1 on approximately 1.84 acres located at 249 Elmer King Road, generally east of Interstate 35 and west of Elmer King Road. Ms. Moore.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, here is this property. It's almost adjacent to the one we just listened to. So here is I-35. It is east of I-35, Elmer King. Kind of takes a dive south, and that property is just on the west side of Elmer King Road. Here's a zoomed in look. This property is developed with a detached home that is a manufactured home, and there is an underground well, and that's the outhouse that stores that location. This property and adjacent property are zone ag. This area was annexed into the city limits in 2004 and assigned that zoning at the time. The applicant originally owned 3 acres and sold an acre to a family member and has submitted in a plat to show the remaining 2 acres minus the right-of-way dedication for Elmer King. This is proposed as a planned development zoning to permit the existing use of the mobile home and to allow for future replacement homes on the site. So here is the current layout of the site. Here's Elmer King with the plat. They're dedicating about 20 feet of right-of-way. Here's the setback line of the 25, and here's the existing home. As you can see, it's well within that setback area, and there's existing structure for the well. The proposed zoning would allow for the detached home and the existing manufactured home and future replacement. This lot exceeds the minimum requirement for the single family 1 district, which requires 10,000 square feet. Again, this is 1.84 acres of property. It has a width of 359 and a depth of 220, so it well exceeds our minimum requirements. The future land use map identified this area for residential use. As you can see, it's right adjacent to that lifestyle center area, but it's south of that. The requested zoning seems reasonable at this location. Notices were provided to property owners within 200 feet of the property. The city received no letters of support or opposition for the zoning change. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item at their meeting on February 15th and recommended approval of the zoning change. I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Okay, thank you, Tina. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak for or against the zoning change? If not, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for council discussion.
I have one really simple question, I think. What's the purpose of this? What's the need to change it from what it is now to this?
Right, the agricultural zoning district requires a 3 acre minimum lot size. And because the lot size does not meet that requirement, it needs to be changed to a different zoning district. So that's why the single family one. The applicant only has 1.84 acreage. So as part of the plat review, we have to make sure that it conforms with the zoning requirements.
So they don't necessarily want it. It's just this, because of plat review.
Correct. It's the plat review that requires this.
There's no immediate plan to build on. this
There's no
property.
immediate plans to construct.
But evidently they're not real opposed to it either, or they
They're
would
not.
probably be saying something.
Correct. They're not opposed to it.
Any other questions or comments? Do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve the zoning change from ag to planned development, single family one for approximately 1.84 acres located at 249 Elmer King Road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion passes unanimously. There being no further business tonight, this council meeting is adjourned.